Welcome home. Mama T is in the house. How are you doing, my love? I am super excited for today's episode and coming home with Mama T. Here we are seeking the nourishment and the love that it takes to help create the life that you've always dreamed of. So let's get down to it. Let's get down to business. So I've talked a little bit about points of awareness, and I even share a monthly points of awareness here on the podcast. And I wanted to kind of talk about what I have found to be potent and why I think that they are super important to work with if you find them to be helpful, I guess, which I find them to be helpful. I find that my words are super powerful. I find that when I especially speak it out loud, it really starts to integrate more in my body and becomes a part of my belief structure. And before I know it, what I'm asking for, what I'm looking for, the experience I'm desiring is showing up for me in so many different ways, or synchronicities. I am more aware of them and I see them and I can feel that I'm on the right path. So it really is like an uplifting practice for me. So with that being said, what are points of awareness? I think of them very similar as affirmations. So whichever way you want to refer to them as, that I don't really get bogged down by what the words are for other people. I just found, I don't know, points of awareness kind of it showed up for me in a community that I'm a part of. And I was like, ooh, I like that, because, I'm working with another community and we do the similar thing, or we focus on a set of points of awareness for, a cycle, maybe like a month or so, and see kind of where it takes us. And I was getting really confused with creating mine. And I can't remember what the term used for how we were calling it, but I saw someone was say points of awareness. Maybe my mentor even said points of awareness in the moment too, but it didn't click until I read it. And I was like, oh, okay. I was so bogged down and trying to get what my affirmations were, my points of awareness were, to fit within a scope that somebody else created. And I realized that I don't really it doesn't work for me to utilize somebody else's words, utilize somebody else's, it's okay to have a template, if you will. But when I'm trying to get my awareness to match something that somebody else created, it gets mixed up, it gets boggled, and I find myself in a state of confusion. And then I can't really connect in fully to what I'm creating for myself. And I then turn into a space of I'm worried about what somebody else is thinking how they're going to grade what my intended experience is, and how they're going to approach what I'm saying. But I'm this is my shit. This is my bag, and I get to focus on it my way and talk about it my way. So I'm going to utilize, use my own words that make sense to me from my own space. And that right there is the point in terms of our own personal magic and finding our own divine awareness within ourselves, right? And so I was like, okay, points of awareness, that makes sense. And so I've been using affirmations for a long time, and I have definitely found them to be helpful, and finding one where that confusion is. Because if I say I want to be a millionaire, or I am a millionaire, and I feel something triggered in me, a fear or something niggling and, telling me why I can't be and how it's not part of my reality and whatever. I can see what needs to be worked on for myself if I put out something that's that big, or perceived as big, or money and love are my two big things that I am consistently growing within and expanding upon. So it's just I am deep love. If I say that, and that is definitely something I had worked on, but I realized that it was not specific enough when I think about like, okay, what really is my intention? My intention is to like find my life partner and get married. Like that is where we're at. Like we're going big and we're coming home, right? So I like felt like I kept backing away from the true intention because I wanted to like give myself space and give myself grace and not be too hard on myself if like it didn't show up immediately. But one of the things I noticed in my last relationship was that when I set that intention, I was like, I want to find, I remember literally sitting on my bed, in the dark. I remember just being in my bed in the dark and saying like, I want a boyfriend and I want a long lasting relationship and I want, our families to get along and I want to be liked by their family and, I want him to have a good job and like be secure and all this stuff. And honestly, like, I got an 8-year relationship. I got like all this stuff out of like in everything that I asked for, like all the boxes were checked when it finally, like when it manifested, and it manifested within like a couple of weeks. I maybe even a month, but I remember saying these things and like hopping on, a couple of apps at the time. Like it wasn't, online dating wasn't like super hardcore a thing at that time. It was like, kind of things that people made fun of. I think Tinder had like just came on the scene, but nothing else really was like out there as it is today. I think but OkCupid was like free. So I think I was on OkCupid and, I just remember hopping on that and like having a couple of conversations that like felt skeevy to me. And then, just so happens like a couple of just individuals kind of showed up in my sphere, if you will, and flirted with me and whatever. And before I knew it, like I like was talking to somebody and we like had a friendship that turned into something more. And it like was a great relationship, and it's still a wonderful relationship that I have today. It's just not a romantic one. And I look back on that and I'm like, I got exactly what I asked for. And there's like nothing wrong. And we're now here at a space where we get to like further, like take it further to what I truly desire. Like at that time, I really was just focused on getting a boyfriend. Like I wanted a boyfriend. I want a boyfriend so badly. And I was like, I asked for a boyfriend. I didn't ask for a husband. And so that's what, like, it's like the difference between 23-year-old Tiara and 33-year-old Tiara is like, back then I wanted a boyfriend. Now I want a husband. Like I want a life partner. Like this is where we're at. We're going big. We're going home. We're doing huge things here. And so with that being said, I have to be truly honest with myself. What is it that I'm looking for? And, what can I grow? Like, who can I grow with? And who am I attracted to? And, is this something like, okay, like I notice within myself that sometimes I will be like, okay, I could like get that person, or I can achieve this, but like, it's not quite what I'm looking for, but this is what I'm comfortable with. And so these words of affirmation, these points of awareness, one, bring to light, okay, well, this is what I'm comfortable with and what I think I can achieve, but it's not what I want. So I get to then tweak what I'm saying to myself so that I can get to the point and get to the level and the frequency and the belief that what I want is what I can get, right? Like I am comfortable with what I want. And that is where the points of awareness really like settle in. And it like came to me, yesterday of like, oh shit, like it so works on the things that we find to be simple. When I make it simple, I feel like, and that is, it's so true. When I make it simple is so powerful of a statement. When I was, driving yesterday, I was like in Pacific Beach, if anyone's familiar with San Diego. And, I've lived 5+ plus years in LA. I've lived in like the Northern Virginia, DC area. I've lived in very like congested areas for the last, I don't know, how old am I now? Like 10 plus years of my life. So I'm used to being in spaces where finding a parking spot is just like next to impossible, or it can feel like it's impossible. And I have found when I make it simple, it is so simple. Like, I'm driving and I'm pulling up. I'm going to a new place that I've never been before. And I had asked like what the parking situation was of a friend. I was like, hey, you know, like we're going to go dancing at this bar. And it's, you know, again, it's a Sunday night. So it's not usually like super crazy on a Sunday. But I had already remembered a time when I was in San Diego months, maybe almost a year back, where I was riding with some friends and we were going to find a parking spot. And it happened multiple times in that same day. It was a Sunday too. I had not to think about it. Like we were going to the farmer's market. It was like the middle of the farmer's market time. And I was like, my friend who was driving was like, oh man, parking is always like such hell to get to the Hillcrest Farmers Market, which is poppin'. If you've ever been there, love it. One of my favorite farmers markets. And I'm like, no, it's going to be fine. We're going to find parking and it's going to be easy. And I said it because, you know, it's easy for me to fix somebody else's words, but like when it's my words, we find it can be a little bit harder. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, where it's just like you catch your friend, you know, being like self-deprecating, whatever, and you're like, no, we don't talk like that, honey. But when you like do it for yourself, we're like, oh yeah, this is how I need to correct myself. And that is, again, those points of awareness when you get to correct, you get to self-correct. So I was like correcting her, and then she was like, oh, well, I'm riding with you. So yeah, that makes sense. Like and then no lie, within 2 seconds, we like find a spot that's like right up against the farmer's market. Perfect. And free parking. Like what? And even later in the day, we had met up with a group of other friends, and we were going somewhere else. We were leaving the farmer's market. We decided to leave one car and go to grab somebody else's car. And we all pile into one car, and we're going to go to another area that is also typically congested. And without missing a beat, another friend was like, T's with us. We're going to get good parking. And I was like, cool. I got to like, now I have like, part of me felt a little like, oh shit. Like I have set, I've set a standard. I have to find good parking. And then I had to like, let it go and be like, all right, it's not good. We got to make it simple. I was like, yeah, we're going to find good parking. No lie. You know, when I didn't focus on it, because focusing for me makes me a little bit like agitated, and then it makes it unsimple. So it makes it hard. It makes it a struggle. It makes me make it a struggle for myself. So I was just like, yeah, bet we're going to find great parking. And we did. We found great parking. So it is amazing, the experience when we make it simple. So I was going back to the aforementioned story about parking that I originally was thinking about, which was what literally happened yesterday. So I'm driving up to the place that we're going, and they're like, okay, I'm thinking to myself, okay, we got to find parking. All right. And I told myself, I was like, you know what, Tiara, you're the kind of girl that just always finds great parking. And I was like, yeah. And I'm like literally gassing myself up in this moment. I'm like, all right, I'm the kind of girl that always finds great parking. I am the kind of girl that always finds great parking. I'm the person that like Tiara always finds great parking. Like there's nothing to worry about, because I always find great parking. And I really like was like saying this to myself, and I was looking like, you know, I turned down one street and I'm like, nah, there's like a spot, but that feels like kind of hard to get into, and like having to turn around and flip it, lay down, flip it, and reverse it as you will. And then I like come around the corner and I come up the street and I see the bar next to me, and I'm like, all right, there's nothing on this direct street. I'm going to turn on the side street that's next to the bar. And I was like, yeah, you know what? We'll probably find parking here. And I pull up, and the bar's on my right-hand side, and I look to my left, and there is one beautiful parallel parked spot. And so while I still had to lay down, flip it, and reverse it to like get to the spot and park properly, it still was literally right next to the bar. So obviously, when we can settle in and make it simple for ourselves, then we make it simple for ourselves. And like going back to the parking as like such a great example, because I chose, like I said, I saw a spot that would have been farther away, which would have meant more walking. And that to me, it's like the difference between, you know, what do we call it? That phrase, settling versus going for what we really want. So I was like, I could try for this spot. This spot is it can be comfortable. Like I can think about it. It might be a little bit hard to get into, but whatever, I can make it work. I can make it work, or I can look for what I really want and have a better understanding of what I really want and go for it. And I went for what I really wanted, and it turned out okay. But it's parking, right? Like parking, I don't know. To me, finding a parking spot is easy. It's not rocket science. It's not anything that I get too anxious or fearful around, because they're eventually, like, the worst thing that's going to happen, I'm going to drive around for a couple minutes, maybe like use up a little bit of gas, but eventually, or, you know, I completely give up and go to a paid parking deck and call it a day. You know, like at the end of the day, I'm going to find parking. I'm going to park at some point. So like there's not a lot of anxiety that really shows up when I'm in this situation, unless of course it's like Christmas and we're at Tyson's Corner and there's like 9 million people trying to like park behind me. And that is a little bit terrifying of an experience. The first time I ever did that. But outside of those times, most of the time it's not that hard. Right? Like I can make it simple. And the other things in my life that I notice, so where I'm at now is like, well, how do I make everything else that I might perceive as bigger, that I might perceive as anxiety inducing, how do I make it simple for me? One, getting very specific and getting real with myself on what it is that I actually want, right? So it's like, when it comes to who am I, like, you know, getting married, you know, finding my boyfriend that's going to be my husband and all of that. Like, what do I really want? Breaking it down, being honest with myself about like personality traits, you know, looks, all of the things, like not settling. What's going to make me happy? And then finding the words for me that really like settle in. I'm the kind of girl that finds the perfect guy for me. I'm the kind of, like, you know, Mama T finds the perfect guy for T all the time for me, whatever, you know, finding, you know, a phrase, something to kind of like adjust to and lean into so that we can trust ourselves more. And then when we trust ourselves more, we can witness what's happening around us. It shows us, hell yeah, you are. You know, like you have that power. You know what you're doing. You know where you're going. You're going home. You've got this. Like, there's nothing, you are unfuckwithable in this moment. You are no, like, you've changed your comfort zone from being in the place that you were settling for and being in the place that you actually want to be. You've created bigger space for your comfort zone to really hold what your desire is. And that is where I find these points of awareness to be so powerful. And with that being said, that is why I'm incorporating the points of awareness in the home membership, which is where you can share what your intentions are. And I would recommend not asking me to create the point of awareness for you, because like I said before, it's so much better when you have your own words, but you can share your points of awareness. And when you share your points of awareness, then you put yourself in a space that kind of holds you more accountable, right? Because you're sharing with a community. And then with that, you share your points of awareness. I'm going to compile it and create a points of awareness meditation that I share on this podcast. Every month, you know, on the new moon, we create our points of awareness. compile, share on the podcast. Maybe some of you guys' points of awareness match. That's great. That's less word. It makes it more simple, right? Like, it doesn't have to be, I think that was something that also used to make it like so hard for me. It would be like, why are you copying? Like, if I felt like I was copying somebody, I'm like, oh, but I really want that. Well, if that's what you want too, like, everybody doesn't need to want the same thing, but also people can want the same thing. Like, obviously there's 9 million bajillion musicians out there. I don't know, I'm making up a number, but it sounds like a good statistic there. There are so many people out there that really want the same thing, but they do it differently. And that's the magic, right? Like, that each person, that's why you're magical, is because each person has a different experience, different soul. So like, they bring a different thing to it. So like, Alicia Keys and Adele both have beautiful, soulful voices, but they're totally different artists, right? Like, their music is not the same. And that is fabulous. And I love them. I love them both. So it's okay to have the same intention, is what I'm saying. So it can be simple. If you see someone share, oh, well, like, I want da 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 da, and you read it and you're like, fuck yeah, that, all right, copy, paste, lay down, flip it, reverse it, let's get it. And then I share it in a beautiful meditation that you get to listen to as many times as you want to listen to it, and really help you settle in. You can say the things out loud. I encourage you to say them out loud, especially when it's specifically about yourself. And we get to make and create extraordinary lives together. You have the support. And that's one thing that I find to be so impactful with working in like a group community is, you're not going alone. While you might be doing the quote unquote hard work, you get to do it with other people in support, and you could have other people help you calibrate towards what you're doing, help other people maybe point out where maybe you're not aware, like I said before, of like when fears pop up, or, you catch a friend saying like, I can't, da, 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 da. And you're like, bitch, we don't talk like that. Like, literally the other day was out and somebody kept saying, well, I'm stupid. I'm like, dude, you're a doctor. Like, can't, I don't know. Does not compute. I feel like you had to do some pretty smart things to get to where you are today. So we're going to change. You got to change the way you talk about yourself. Right? So those points of awareness help you to change how you talk about yourself, how you talk about your experience, and how you talk about what you create for yourself. And with that, I say ta-ta for now. I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and be a part of the home membership. Love you. Bye.